So far in this series, we've been looking at the idea of forward head posture. I want to finish up on that topic by looking at two more things, and then we can get into the specifics of a better mental model for understanding the optimal orientation and position of the neck and head. First, I just want to clearly explain what causes this kind of forward head posture, where the head seems to be drooping massively. Aesthetically, this looks noticeably bad. I would say it really isn't much worse than an average posture like this, but it definitely looks worse. Anyone can see that something is off here, whereas a more average posture is not obviously wrong. What's happening when you have this look is that your rib cage is bent back and your neck is bent way down. This produces a severe angle between the torso and the neck. We can understand this as the face and the lower sternum being brought closer together, which massively reduces the distance between your head and your rib cage. We can't fix this problem by pulling our head back. That will take us to perhaps a slightly better looking posture, but our rib cage will still be bent back at the top and shoved forward at the lower end. We will have gotten our head up a little bit, which accounts for the improvement in the appearance of the head and neck, but our torso is actually likely to be in worse shape after such an adjustment. That is, the torso will be more bent and will be further forward out over the feet. So again, we can look at FM Alexander and see that though his head is forward, because his rib cage is not bent back at the top, but is instead upright, he does not have this drooping head look. There is no severe angle between his torso and his neck. Hopefully by now it's clear that the back is key here. If you want to correct your drooping head, you need to address your back. Now let's examine the procedures and exercises that are used by those who believe in the forward head posture concept. Because if they're wrong about forward head posture, their solutions should also reveal that. The most common advice to deal with forward head posture is the Mackenzie chin tuck, where you pull your chin and head back. On first glance, this seems very bizarre. I say that because I would hazard to guess that almost no one wants the shortened jaw and double chin that is formed by this exercise. Why would we want to practice making a double chin? Is our goal to have a short jaw where the skin is bunched up? There is some lengthening that occurs when these chin tuck procedures are done correctly. You will be instructed to lift the back of your head while you do this, and that will stretch the muscles at the back of the head and neck a bit. However, the major downside of lengthening your neck like this is that you will be training yourself to think that the only way to lengthen your neck is to shorten your jaw. But that's not the case. We can get all of the same lengthening of the neck without pulling our chin back in this strange way. You will also hear people say to stand with your back against a wall and pull your head back so that the back of your head touches the wall too. This goes wrong for most people, and we can see that just by looking at example pictures. People pull their head back and down, shortening their neck. They will arch their back against the wall, bending the back and losing the support of their thoracolumbar fascia. They will retract their chin and restrict their airway. They will push their lower ribs forward and angle their sternum back. These exercises make no sense if you want to lengthen your back and use your thoracolumbar fascia. In my opinion, the idea of forward head posture is just simply wrong. It's possible to have your head drooping forward, and that is not desirable. But the explanation and the remedies provided by the forward head posture model for this problem are illogical if you understand how the back affects the neck and head. Let's look at the model that Jeando Masoero puts forward, which is based on FM Alexander's work as well as on Francois Delsarte's ideas. We've seen that the upper torso rounds forward and up as the ribs get smaller in diameter. Masoero would have us continue that forward and up trajectory with the neck. This will cause us to have the back of our head well forward of the back line of the body. But Masoero would actually have us ultimately bring our head even further forward than what Alexander is showing here. We want the ear to rest in line with the frontal plane, which means it will line up with the upper sternum, lower sternum, iliac, and instep. However, for most, this will be a long-term goal, not something that is immediately achievable, but it's the direction we're going in. An interesting piece of supporting evidence is that when your head is this far forward, your sternocleidomastoid muscles, which are these muscles at the side of the neck, will be vertically straight instead of being angled back. You can often see these muscles bulging at the side of a person's neck, especially when they try to lengthen their neck. What does it mean when a muscle bulges like that? Masoero explains that this bulging is the result of a lack of lengthening. When a muscle is properly lengthened, it doesn't bulge. It becomes smooth and difficult to make out under the skin. If you want to lengthen your neck without shortening your sternocleidomastoid muscles and making them bulge out, you have to lengthen these muscles. And to lengthen them, you need to make them vertical. So this is another indication of why we want to move the head so far forward. We want to increase the distance between the chin and the front of the neck. People often have this idea of a strong jaw versus a weak jaw, but the shape of our jaw is the result of the movements we make. We can change how our jaw looks and functions by making conscious movements that counter our postural habits. Our goal will be to keep the jaw lengthened. However, we do not want to tip our head back to do that. It's in fact very common for people to already have their head tipped too far back, especially if they're trying to balance their head on top of their body. We want the entire head and entire face to move forward. It's extremely common for people to have habits of either wanting to pull their chin down or up when manipulating their head, or even just manipulating their torso or arms. So that's something we must be aware of and counteract. The other major pitfall is that it's much easier for people to go forward and down with their head than it is for them to go forward and up. While we do want the head to go forward, we do not want to move it forward at any cost. Forward and down is worthless to us. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of all this as the series continues, but I wanted to lay out the basic conception of the optimal orientation and position of the neck and head. Before you attempt to adjust your head, it might be a good idea to spend some time observing yourself. Do you ever notice yourself pulling your head back? Do certain activities cause you to pull your head back more than usual? As I mentioned earlier in this series, pulling the head back was one of the first major clues that F.M. Alexander followed to understand his postural problems. It shouldn't surprise us that we are having a similar problem. So try to really observe yourself. Use a mirror or video recording. And if you find yourself pulling your head back, can you stop yourself? Experiment a bit and then join me next episode, and we'll start to look at how we can adjust the neck and head in a rational way.